Hi, I'm Brett Davis and I support this message. So, here again, this is not necessarily going to be, well, it's not at all going to be a video where I'm talking about what I'm doing. I'm just going to ride this gentle colt around a little bit while I'm talking, because I figured you guys are sick of watching me hang out in my kitchen. But a friend of ours sent us a TikTok video of a guy talking about laying a horse down. And she says, "Have you ever laid a horse down?" And of course I was like, yeah, I'm the guy that lays horses down. And got us thinking about it. And in that TikTok video, this guy, and I don't know who it was, who the fella was. If it said his name, I missed it. So I don't know if he's qualified to talk about what he was talking about or not, but it makes no difference. What he was saying is that used to be laying one down was a last resort. Hey, that's not right, Roni. Roni pony. He said laying one down was a last resort, and nowadays he feels like people have made it to where laying one down is a first resort. And to me, at different times in my life, depending on the breeding program I was dealing with, laying one down has not been a last resort nor a first resort. It's been part of the program. That was how we started things out. It was, "Nice to meet you, my name's Brett Davis." And so it really depends on the horse for me. But let me talk about why I think it's such a good tool, and why I think it's really, I really think it's not appropriate for it to be the last resort. I don't think you should have gone through all that much, and gone through a bunch of stuff and then finally went, well, fine, I'll lay you down, because I think you're not getting as much good out of the tool doing that, which is why it's either part of my program or real early in training if I'm dealing with a behavioral problem. And I want to reiterate right now that throwing one down and laying one down are two entirely different things. I've thrown horses down when it was appropriate. I've thrown horses down when it wasn't appropriate, but I was 22 years old and I could and didn't know any better. It's been a long time since I've seen a horse that needed thrown down. I don't think that's hardly ever appropriate, and to be perfectly honest, kind of like when I was talking about forefooting one, nowadays I'm dang near 40 years old. If somebody brought me a horse that I did think it was appropriate to throw down rather than lay down, I'd send the horse back. I wouldn't ride it. I don't have to ride those kind of horses anymore. I get to ride these kind of horses now. Anyway, so with that said, I'll talk about what I think we're really doing. So many people, if you're thinking of it as last resort, first resort, anything like that, you're talking about behavioral problems. And to me, it's not it can be used to deal with behavioral problems, but you're really losing a lot of the edge off the knife if you're doing it that way. I don't think it's a matter of dealing with a bad horse or a horse that's having a problem doing this or doing that or the other thing. And I think really if you got too excited about it, using it too early when you're dealing with behavioral problems, yeah, I think you maybe could cause some problems with it. To me, it has nothing to do with behavior. I don't want it to have anything to do with behavioral problems. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it is last resort. But what I want to use it for is to create a mindset, to create a mindset of submission in the horse, in the fact that horse, I can put you in this position without hurting you, without really getting you aired out, without really straining you, without really doing a heck of a lot of anything. I can get you in this position where you feel vulnerable, and then I don't hurt you. Then I don't do anything but pet you and be nice to you and talk to you and tell you that you're pretty. It's getting a horse in that mindset where they feel safe being submissive. A lot of people hate that word, submissive. Oh, this is a partnership. There shouldn't be a submissive. In any relationship, there's a dominant and a submissive character. It's impossible to have two dominant characters. It's impossible to have two submissive characters. That's just the way life is. In this relationship, I'm going to be the dominant character. This horse is going to be the submissive character. If not, I will get hurt really bad. So don't be icky about that word submissive. In fact, look it up in the dictionary. You'll probably find out it doesn't mean what you think it means. But anyway, I use laying down to put a horse in a mindset where that horse feels safe being submissive. Generally speaking, in a horse's natural state with a whole bunch of other horses, or in any other situation where that horse feels he needs to be submissive, well, he feels he needs to be submissive for his own safety. Not that he is safe when he is submissive, but that he will not be safe if he is not submissive. And let's just take a setting of a group of horses, wild horses, feral horses. There's no such thing as a wild horse. Anyway, let's take a group of feral horses. The old stud, he's got some long yearlings that are coming up in the world, and they're starting to think little bitty baby stud thoughts, and he whips the absolute snot out of them and makes them feel unsafe unless they are submissive to him. And then they do the baby mouth, ay, please don't hurt me. And then later on, of course, they get to where they're not allowed to stay anyway, and he kicks them out. But that's still a form of submission. Them leaving the herd and going and living in a rag of colts in a bachelor herd, that's still an act of submission. The fact that they got kicked out of the herd, that they left, because they felt unsafe if they had stayed. I want this horse to feel safe. I put him in a submissive zone. There's a better word for that, but that's the only one I got right now. I put him in a submissive state, and then I make him feel that you're safe in this submissive state. Everything's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. And that's what I'm trying to do. So then later on, like with this colt, when I first got on him, when I'd pull on this right rein, or left rein, pardon me, and see here he's going to do it right there, he doesn't feel comfortable submitting to that bit. Now this isn't something I'm going to lay him down over. He's only had a snapped bit on a handful of times, but he doesn't feel comfortable submitting to that bit. He feels unsafe if he submits. Well, there. Now, why he feels unsafe if he submits, I don't know. But he submitted, I let everything off. See, there's no reason to feel unsafe about that maneuver. The laying him down is the exact same thing as what a lot of people call softening. You know, we're softening his mouth. No, you're getting his mouth submissive. And this, what I'm doing right here, is no different than laying one down. Like I said, it's not always part of my program. This is shoot, I can't remember how he's bred, but he's a hot bred little number. I mean, big time show horse bred. He doesn't need to be laid down right off the bat as part of the program, because heck, he's stall raised. He's been around humans his whole life. I don't need to have that introduction of this is the character you're going to play in this relationship, and this is the character I'm going to play in this relationship. Doesn't have to be like that with this one. If I did come to a point where I was laying a colt like this down, it would be a behavioral issue. And if it came to that, a colt like this, and it was a behavioral issue, it is my fault anyway. I'm the one that created the behavior. With colts, like the last place I was at when I was in Arizona, and I'm not cussing the horses, I don't want anybody to think I am. They were good horses, but they were raised outside. They weren't handled very much. Their mamas weren't handled very much. So by the time they came in as 2-year-olds, they didn't have much experience with humans. So that's when laying down, and everybody's watched the video where I lay one of those colts down. You saw how soft and easy it was. That's when it's part of the program where I introduce myself with that. That laying one down is part of the program, and this is how it's going to be. I'm Brett, you're a horse, and you're going to be submissive, but that's a good place to be for you. And so that's kind of my main deal with laying one down. And there's 700 different ways to do it correctly, and there's several ways to do it incorrectly. The way I showed in that other video is the way I like to do it best, but there's other ways I like to do it. There's a lot of times I let them lay themselves down, and I might ought to do a video of that one of these days if I ever get a tough one around, but we'd have to do time-lapse video because it takes a long time for them to decide that they want to lay down, and I'm not even involved in that. But so when you see a guy lay one down or talk about laying one down or this and that, it's not necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It has a lot to do with the motives of the horseman that's doing it, and the method that they're using that determines whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But I think it's a heck of a handy tool. I like doing it. And and I was going to talk about when it's appropriate and when it's not. It's not really appropriate when you're mad and the horse is mad. That's a time when it's not appropriate. Times when it is appropriate is pretty much if you just feel like it. If you come out one day and say, I think you need laid down, well, that's appropriate. There's a filly I'm riding that she's got a little bit of spoiled to her. She rides around pretty good, but she's got a little bit of spoiled to her. I was out here trying to lope some circles, and she was just being ill. She was just switching her tail and kind of bopping around and pretend bucking and stuff like that. And I'll put up with a little of that from a fresh filly that lives in a stall, but it went on longer than it needed to, and it was time for me to stick a fork in her because she needed to be done. And so I just stepped off and laid her down. Boom, right? It was right here. Laid her down, petted on her a little bit, let her up. She wanted to be silly still, so I stepped off and laid her down again. And then the second time, she believed that I could do that anytime I wanted and believed in me. That was an appropriate time to do something like that. If I'd have waited till she was mad and I was mad, i.e. our last resort, which I said I think last resort's kind of the worst time to do it. If I'd tried to fix her with my hands and my feet and tried to talk her out of it and tried to do this and got to the point where she and I were both pretty frustrated about the world or even angry, and then I'd laid her down, it wouldn't really done much good. It would have just been, you were mad, now you're on the ground mad. That doesn't help much. The way I did it was, I asked you once nicely, I asked you twice nicely. The third time I said, this is how it's gonna be. And so she wasn't mad, I wasn't mad, nobody got scared, nobody got bruised, nobody got scuffed. She had a little dirt in her ears, I had a little dirt in my ears. But that's laying one down. That's when you should, when you shouldn't. And I think if somebody is just actively against laying a horse down, I don't know, I think that just shows a lot of closed-mindedness and shows a real lack of experience. Maybe you don't like to do it, maybe you're not very good at it, maybe you think that you should try a whole bunch of other stuff beforehand. That's fine, but it's a good tool and it's a tool that works as long as you don't do it when you're mad. And that's that.